In the endless white silence of the Arctic, where the wind howls like a ghost and time itself seems frozen, two men set out on what was supposed to be a simple 2-day hike. Bob, a researcher stationed at an Arctic facility, and Andrew, his longtime friend, wanted nothing more than a glimpse of the untouched frontier, a place so desolate that even satellites struggled to capture it. But fate had something else in store. When Bob first invited Andrew, his laughter had been half mocking, half nervous. "You're insane," Andrew told him. "The Arctic isn't an adventure, it's a death trap." Bob smiled beneath his frostbitten beard. "Maybe, but what if it's also history waiting to be found?" By the second day of trekking, the excitement had faded into exhaustion. The snow stretched endlessly, a frozen desert reflecting the dull blue of the polar sky. Each step crunched like breaking glass beneath their boots. The silence was so deep, even their breathing sounded intrusive. When the sun began to dip behind the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of red and violet, they found a rise to pitch their small insulated tent. "Not bad," Andrew muttered, stamping his feet for warmth. Bob only smiled, his eyes bright with a curiosity that refused to fade. Then the ground moved. At first, it was subtle, a faint vibration, like the distant roar of thunder. But within seconds, the world itself began to shake. The snow rippled, the ice cracked beneath their feet. "An earthquake!" Bob shouted. Their tent collapsed as fissures opened all around them, slicing through the landscape like lightning bolts. "Run!" Andrew yelled, his heart pounding as the ground split open behind him. Ice shards shot into the air like shattered glass. The earth seemed alive, breathing, shifting, collapsing. Somehow, they made it to higher ground, crawling onto a ridge just as the tremors died away. For a long moment, there was only silence. The wind carried the faint echo of cracking ice somewhere in the distance. Then Andrew saw it. Down in the newly torn valley below, the sunlight caught on something strange, something that gleamed through the snow like glass. "Bob," he whispered, pointing toward it. "You're seeing that too, right?" 3 enormous glass domes, half buried in the ice, glistened under the dim Arctic light. Each one sat inside its own crater, their surfaces cracked but intact. They looked unnatural. Bob's voice trembled with awe. "This isn't natural formation," he said. "It's built by someone." Despite Andrew's protests, Bob was already tying his rope. His curiosity was stronger than his fear. "If we came all this way," he said, "we're not turning back now." The descent was brutal. The wind screamed through the crater, tearing at their gear as they made their way down. At the bottom, the glass shimmered beneath a thin sheet of frost. Andrew brushed it with his glove. It was smooth, almost warm to the touch. "Look," he said, pointing. "There's a hatch." Bob wiped away the frost, finding a circular seal buried beneath ice. He turned the handle, and with a faint hiss, the hatch opened, releasing a gust of stale, ancient air. Darkness yawned below. They exchanged one last look. Then Bob whispered, "Let's find out what's down there." The rope groaned as they lowered themselves through the hatch. The beam of Bob's flashlight cut through the darkness, revealing walls of glass and steel buried in frost. What should have been impossible was now before them, an entire facility entombed beneath the Arctic ice. They moved slowly through corridors that looked frozen in time, desks covered in frost, lockers sealed shut. On one wall hung a calendar from 1973. It was as if everyone had simply vanished. Then a sound. A metallic clang echoed from somewhere ahead. Andrew froze. "Tell me that's you," he whispered. Bob didn't answer. His light flickered toward the noise, and there, through the drifting mist, a figure stumbled into view. A man. His clothes were tattered, his face hollow, his eyes wild from years in the dark. "Get out!" he rasped, his voice trembling. "This place isn't meant to be opened." His name was Clive, the last surviving member of the team that had once worked here. Decades ago, he said, an earthquake had collapsed the surface above, trapping the research crew inside. Rescue never came. One by one, his colleagues died until only he remained. Bob and Andrew listened in stunned silence. The quake that had shaken their camp wasn't a coincidence, it had freed him. When they finally climbed back to the surface, Clive collapsed in the snow, gasping at the feel of open air. For the first time in 40 years, he saw the sky. The rescue team found them hours later, airlifting the 3 men to safety. Weeks later, as Clive recovered, he told his story to the world, a tale of endurance, hope, and the will to survive. The domes were sealed again, this time by scientists determined to study them, not bury them. And in that frozen corner of the earth, the glass domes still shimmer, silent monuments to human resilience, and to the day the Arctic gave one of its lost souls back to the world.